example we don't have power of s, so really I have s to the 0, يعني the power of s is 0. So in this example the starting phase at very low frequencies 19 times 0 plus 0 degrees if the constant is positive. Let's look at my constant here, it is positive. So the starting angle will be equal to 0 degrees. And I'm already counting from 0 degrees. Now, let us say, for example, my starting angle, let us say that my gain is negative. I have an inverting amplifier and my gain is of the form minus 100 over 1 plus s over 10 to the 4. So I'm going to look at my constant is negative and my power of s is 0, and this is times s to the 0. So I will have 90 times 0 plus 180 degrees. This is my initial phase. So I'm going to start here from 180 degrees. Okay. And then, of course, the starting slope is 0. As my starting slope is 0, this is my starting slope. My starting angle is this quantity here, okay, and it is this quantity that I calculate here. Now, I'm going to hit the 0.1 times the pole soon. So let us see what the rule tells us here next. Now, the rule says that if we encounter 0.1 times pole or 0.1 times negative 0 or 10 times positive 0, in reality here, the first entry that we hit is a 0.1 times the pole, right? Because my pole is here, okay? So when I encounter a 0.1 times the pole, the slope after is equal to the slope before minus 45 degrees per decade. So the moment that I reach to this point here, the slope after is equal to the slope before, يعني هو 0 slope, and it will be minus 45 degrees per decade, okay? And then I'm going to continue on this until I hit the next marked point, which is here. And this marked point tells me, well, I have encountered a 10 times a pole. So here, what we see according to this rule, that if we encounter 0.1 times a positive 0 or 10 times a pole, يعني in this example we have encountered 10 times a pole, okay, then the slope after equals the slope before plus 45 degrees per decade. So I have encountered 10 times the pole, so the slope after is equal the slope before, اللي هو minus 45 plus 45 degrees per decade, اللي هو 0 degrees per decade. Okay, so I flatten out when I have a single. هلا the value here, هيدي بلشنا ب 180. هيدا from here to here, this is 2 decades. لأنه من 0.1 ل 10 يعني 10 على 0.1. This is equal to what? To 100. This is 2 decades. So this means minus 45 degrees per decade. يعني I have dropped down by minus 90. هيدي كلها drop here minus 90 degrees, and so I wind up with 90 degrees for this example. An alternate way to calculate things here is to say that the angle 2 اللي هي على هيدي البوينت 2 is equal to angle 1 صح plus slope ضرب log of omega 2 على omega 1. هلا angle 1 كانت 180, slope هو minus 45, أوميجا 2 هي 10 ضرب 10 to the 4 على أوميجا 1 اللي هي 0.1 ضرب 10 to the 2 and this is equal 180 minus 45 عفوا هذه في log here log base 10 log base 10 of this is 10 to the 2 so this is equal 180 minus 45 ضرب 2 اللي هي 180 minus 90 degrees. Okay, so this is how we really calculate how many decades we have and what is the angle that we get here. Okay, so what matters really is that we are comfortable with the rules and that we know that the phase adds up. Yeah, the first thing that we have here is the first thing that we would like to have is that we are able to understand what's the constant, and if I have something in the form of, let us say, k into 1 plus s على omega z1 على 1 plus s على omega p1, to know whether my constant k is positive or negative, to know if I have any s terms that are brought to the numerator to some power n. Okay, the k will s to the n هيدول بيحددوا لي phi of 0. Okay, and then any time, so here for example let us say that this is 10 to the 5 for example and this is 10 to the 4. I have to put the 0.1 times the pole, the 0, the 0.1 times the 0 and stuff like that in order, sorted in order on the omega axis. Okay, so the 0.1, so what I have here is for P1, I have 0.1 times 10 to the 4, and I have 10 times 10 to the 4, and for Z1, I have, it's a positive 0 here, so I have 0.1 times 10 to the 5, and 10 times 10 to the 5. And I have to sort this for quantities, okay? So let us see what this come out to be. So for the pole, I have 10 to the 3, and I have 10 to the 5, and for this guy, I have 10 to the 4 and 10 to the 6. So I'm going to place in order 10 to the 3, it's coming from the pole, 0.1p. I have then 10 to the 5, it's coming from 10p, and then I have 10 to the 4 and it's coming from 0.1z, and I have 10 to the 6 and it's coming from 10z. Okay, and if we want to draw the whole plot, okay, we will start looking at phi 0 for example, for this example. So for phi 0, where my expression is of the form, let us say 100 into minus 100, let's say, into 1 plus s على 10 to the 5 over 1 plus s على 10 to the 4. Okay, phi 0 is equal to 90 times 0 plus the angle, this is negative, so this is plus 180. So phi 0 is 180 degrees. So I'm going to start here with 180 degrees, okay? Of course, every time I hit an inflection point, I'm going to calculate my slope. Okay, so let us track the slope. Here I hit a 0.1 times a pole. Okay, so the first point I hit a 0.1 times a pole. So the slope is going to be my previous slope minus 45. So this slope is going to be here minus 45 degrees per decade. Okay, and then the second time I hit 0.1 of a positive 0. So I hit a 0.1 of a positive 0 here, okay, and my slope will be the slope before plus 45 degrees per decade. So minus 45 plus 45 هيرجع يعمل flattening للسلوب هيصير 0. Okay, and then I'm going to hit the 10 times the pole this time. So the 10 times the pole falls into the second category also, and the slope will increase for the phase by 45 degrees. So I will have a rising slope this time for the phase of plus 45 degrees per decade until I hit the 10 to the 6. And then the 10 to the 6 is a 10 times a positive 0. So the 10 to the 6 really is 10 times a positive 0. Okay, so it is here. And this makes the phase change by minus 45 degrees per decade. So the phase is going to be plus 45 minus 45. So it is going to flatten again. So this is the phase for my system, the slope for the phase for my system here. هلا بما انه this is in the log scale نحن عادة بنعرف انه since this is piecewise linear we know that we can always calculate that delta y over delta x is equal to the slope. طبعا delta y هي angle 2 minus angle 1 والdelta x هي log of omega 2 minus log of omega 1 and this is equal to the slope. From this we can find that angle 2 is equal to angle 1 صح? Plus the slope, the difference of the log of two numbers is the log of their division of omega 2 على omega 1. Okay? So from any point here to the next point, we can always find what's the value so long that we know the slope and we know omega 1 and omega 2. Hello. If somebody asks us for this system, okay, for this system, اللي هو كان عندنا minus 100 into 1 plus s على 10 to the 5 على 1 plus s على 10 to the 4. What is the phase at infinity? Okay, نحن we know إنه the minus 100 the constant رح يعطيني 180 degrees, right? The omega z is a positive z, so it really gives me plus 90 degrees. Omega p, it's a pole, so it automatically gives me minus 90 degrees. Therefore, the total phase is going to be 180 plus 90 minus 90, and this is going to be 180 degrees. Okay? يعني my system إذا أنا عندي positive 0 على طول على الانفينيتي على very large omega بيعطيني 90 degrees contribution كما شرحنا بالقبل. negative 0 رح يعطيني minus 90 degrees والبول على طول رح تعطيني minus 90 degrees. هيدي at infinity. Okay.